Hi guys, today we're covering 610 monomial square roots, or it's simplifying radicals with variables. You might want to think about it that way. Or we would call this simplifying radicals with variables. Okay, so the first thing, if we're given something that looks like the square root of a to the m, okay, well, if m is a multiple of 2, then you're going to use the rule of just doing a to the m divided by 2. You're just going to do m divided by 2. If m is not a multiple of 2, then you're going to break it apart. So we're going to take it and separate it to where it's a to the m minus 1 and a, so that you take out that one extra that makes it an odd, so that now you have an even number. Okay. So what we're doing is want to make one even. All right, so if I'm looking at number 2, okay, so first off, when I take the square root, that means it's the opposite of squared. Okay, so I'm going to do the 6 divided by 2, so that's going to give me m to the 3rd as my final answer. Next example. Okay, we're going down a little bit further. Okay, so I'm going to think about this as separate things. So I'm going to have the square root of 49 times the square root of a squared times the square root of b to the 6th times the square root of c to the 4th. Okay, now when I'm doing this, okay, the square root of 49 is 7. 7, the square root of a squared, so that means I'm going to divide by 2, so that's going to make it just a. B to the 6th, that's going to divide by 2, so that's going to come b to the 3rd. C to the 4th, I divide by 2 because that's even, so that's going to become c squared. So when I simplify this, my answer is 7ab to the 3rd c squared. And there's the final answer. All right, next example. We're moving right along down to number 12. So, and you can look back at 6-9's notes to remember your square roots, or you can just punch it into the calculator. Okay, so this, for this one, this is where I'm going to break this out, and I'm going to have the square root of 196 c to the 4th d squared. I want it to where everything is a perfect square. Okay, this is all divisible by 2. So then I'm going to have the square root of c separate. And now I'll take the square root of what I can. The square root of 196 is 14, I think. So we end up with 14 divided by 2. So that's going to be c squared. Divide by 2 on the d. So that's going to be c squared d. And then we just bring this down because I can't take the square root of c. So then I have the square root of c. And this is my final answer, 14c squared d, square root of c. All right, more examples, guys. Okay, so let's look at, because this is where we're going to have pulling in the variables, but also having not perfect squares. So we've got 14, 18, and 22 that we're going to do. Okay, so for 14, I'm going to break this out. I want to break it out to where one of them is a perfect square situation and the other one is not. So this can break out into the square root of 25x squared times the square root of 2. And now I'll take the square root. 25 squared is 5, x squared is x, and then I bring down what's in the radical. So I have square root of 2. So my final answer is 5x squared radical 2. All right, moving right along. Number 18. I gotta think about 180. How do I want to break it up? Well, I know it ends in 0, so it could be divisible by 10, but 10 and 18, neither one's a perfect square. But let me go a little bit smaller, because 0, if it ends in 0, it's divisible by 10 and 5. If I do 180 divided by 5, okay, 180 divided by 5. Oh, I get 36. That's a perfect square. Okay, and now I want everything else to be, my variables to be even. So that means this right here, I'm going to have to separate out because that's to the third. So we end up with the square root of 36x squared y to the 8th. And then I'm going to have times the square root of 5x, because these two are not perfect squares. I want everything in perfect squares here, and then we have what's left. All right, and now we simplify. We take the square root. So the square root of 36 is 6. X squared, we divide by 2, so that's going to be x. Y to the 8th, divide by 2, that's going to give me y to the 4th. And then we bring the rest down. So we end up with the square root of 5x. So my final answer is 6x y to the 4th square root 5x, or radical 5x. One last example, guys, 22. Okay, 63. Remember, we want to have a perfect square and probably a non-perfect square. So if I think of 63, I know 9. And I've got a couple of odds in here. So I'm going to have 2 radicals. So I'm going to bring out the 9. The x to the 5th, I'm going to subtract 1. So that's going to give me x to the 4th under this one. Subtract 1. So that's going to give me y to the 24th. And then a z to the 14th. Times, and now here is what's left. So I'm going to have the 7, the x, and the y. And now I simplify and take the square root. So the square root of 9 is 3. 4, I divide x to the 4th, I divide by 2. So that's going to give me x squared. 24 divided by 2 for the y, so that's going to give me y to the 12th. 14 divided by 2, so that's going to give me z to the 7th. And then this is what's left, so I just bring it down. So I have radical 7xy. So my final answer is 3x squared y to the 12th z to the 7th radical 7xy. Got questions? Pause and rewind, or come ask me. Otherwise, you finish the odds for the packet. You do the evens, it's extra credit for your 5P grade. Have a great day. And I think this will be this is our last lesson. So y'all have a great year, summer, and good luck in high school. Bye.